So I was asked to do this by one of my fans. So it's the presence versus the one above all. So firstly, if you just go into this like assuming that both characters are just the strongest God in their verse and that they're omnipresent and omnipotent and have all this power, then if you scale like that and that's your scaling, then these characters tie. But that's not an accurate scale. Omnipresence and omnipotence and all that stuff that really goes on the back burner whenever you start looking at feats. For instance, the Presence isn't even really the strongest character in his series. One, he gave his powers away to this girl, which makes her pretty much just as strong, if not stronger than him, because it'd be his powers plus whatever she had before. Lucifer literally beat like a dethroned presence, which was never stated to be like a lot weaker or anything like that. The presence says that he was not his own creator, and actually the collective unconsciousness is what like basically molds the gods of the verse in DC. The collective unconscious being the collective conscious of all things, or maybe just the humans, depending on what comic you're talking about. So even with that, he's still bound by things. He said we're not our own creator. He did say that he was eternal and immortal, though, so he could have been around forever. It's just the collective unconscious shapes him. But then you also have characters like Priarla or whatever the fuck, who basically says that God will return to her and shit like that. So even then, like she's the like dark side of God. The great mighty beast is the dark side of God, and they're like tie and shit like that. While the one above all, like the scaling can change now that we got more stuff, but the one above all is pretty much if you go by like author statements and guidebooks and things like that, it's stated to be a representation of all the authors and all the writers in Marvel, all of them together from all the different comics. So that level of existence alone will put him above. Um, on top of that, you have the simple fact is you got downplay like Thanos beat the one above all, but that was the you can be like dead ass be like that was just an avatar and that was the one above many or the one above most type shit. Because that or you can just argue like inconsistency throughout like that run versus the other comics since you got that infinite multiverse or whatever the fuck. But yeah, like just feat wise, this character scale is so far above like all the characters that you could pretty much list. Like OP characters that are super high outer, like you can argue almost infinitely into high fucking outer. The one above all just kind of like scales above casually, and True Form, Living Tribunal, dead ass scales above like all the like high outer beings of the verse, and then like the one above all just transcends him to an even higher degree. So the one above all wins this, and unless it's stated otherwise, there's no con. Now, I have seen some wank arguments that try to say all the gods of DC are just the same god. Like for instance, the the presence god is the presence, and it's also the overvoid and the god of like the green. No, no, not the green. Yeah, the green. They'd argue that it's like the god of all these gods, like all of them just put together, the source, everything. But I just don't buy that argument. It was never really stated like that to be like that. And even if you still like do that and get to those arguments, they still like don't compare to the hacks of like the one above all and things like that. And what's crazy is the one above all is one of those characters. It's actually kind of hard to scale. You just know that it scales above these characters, like XYZ character that has these feats. So you just kind of like amp it. But yeah, that's my opinion on this. And thanks for subscribing.